It is now 6:40, and at this time I'll call the City Commission workshop to order. Shall we stand, please? For our invocation, followed by our pledge. Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us together one more time. We thank you for waking us this morning with blood continuously running warm in our veins. We thank you, Lord. We are meeting here tonight to take care of some important business for the city of High Springs. We ask that you allow us to work together on these situations and that we can come to an agreement on what we need to do. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Shall we do our pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Maybe have roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor Williams is on his way. Vice Mayor James.
Here.
Commissioner Evans is absent. Commissioner Jamison.
Here.
Commissioner Weller. Here.
All right. Our item is discussion on the possible renaming of Northwest US Highway 27.
It's our understanding, city, is that we must name First Street 27. Is that correct?
Huh?
To start, we'll bring the expert in, right?
Keith Godwin, Alachua County Fire Rescue E911 coordinator. Our office is doing the readdressing of some of the High Springs. No, you do not have to call it US Highway 27. It does not. That's just what we selected because that's what the state road is right there. So it does not have to be called that. I probably should just stay right here the whole time, right?
Probably.
Yes.
I actually brought this up and asked for this meeting because some businesses along what is now called US 27, Northwest 27, had indicated they were not happy with that and were requesting if the road could be actually have a name to it. And in talking to Mr. Goodwin, we were told we could rename it, but it would have to be a railroad name. But it would have to be after this process. Now,
if I may, it does not have to be a railroad name.
oh,
What you always want to avoid is a duplicate road name. Now, our office maintains a list of every roadway name and number in the entire county. We do that with a company called Entrado through AT&T. They maintain the database, but we're the ones who actually make sure it's accurate, and we change information on there. So we don't want a duplicate name that already exists. It does not have to be a railroad name, but having came out of the 911 business, and I'm still in the 911 business, our focus is locating the caller to 911. So one of those rules is don't have a duplicate road name. Another one might be, well, not might be, but another one is don't have a road name that is difficult to spell or pronounce, because somebody on the other end of that phone, when you call that 911 operator, is trying to type that. So if you can't pronounce it or spell it, then it makes it difficult. And we don't want to have a name, if we use a name that is difficult to associate with where it's at. For example, if you go to the town of Micanopy, they have a lot of Indian names. Somebody says they're on, I can't even think of one right now, but some Indian name. Every call taker in that 911 center knows that's in Micanopy because those Indian names are nowhere else in this county. That's why when we did the readdressing of High Springs, there was a small section in the town here, where the road was just so oddly shaped the way it ran, it could not be an avenue, place, road, lane, or a street, terrace, or drive because of the way it ran. So we made it, I think you
Caboose.
folks selected it.
Boxcar, yeah.
Boxcar, is that Boxcar?
I think
Okay.
there's only 4 or 5 addresses on it. So everybody in the comm center and the 911 center knows it. Somebody says a railroad name, Railroad Avenue, Boxcar, they're in High Spring. So if you're adamant or you want, it's your choice. I'm just a mechanic behind the curtain doing the work. If you want a name, I strongly suggest that it be a railroad name.
My other question I had is, assuming we move forward and this commission decides to give Northwest First Avenue Northwest US 27 a name, and we vote on it and we pass on it, what then has to happen from the county side, if anything, to make that change?
Well, there are about, I was only in the office like 2 hours today before I came here. I was someplace else looking at a phone system, but there are about 118 addresses that we just newly addressed on US Highway 27. So they're all brand new. Everybody got a letter. Here's your new address. So you're looking at about 118. Of those 118, I think 51 are residences. Some other number are businesses, and then some other or something other than a residence or a business. Could be like a pump house or something. And sometimes we just don't know what it is. But there are about 118. This area is the phone if you have a landline telephone, the database for that landline phone is maintained by Windstream. This whole city of High Springs landline system is maintained by Windstream. Now you can have other kinds of phone services, but I'm just sticking to the regular landline telephone. We have to, I'll try and keep it as short and as simple as I can, but we have to coordinate with Windstream to provide them with the current address. Here's what the new address is, and then we have to wait for them to update their database. When they've done that, we then tell Entrado, which is a company paid for by AT&T, but we actually pay for all of that. Entrado then goes and puts it in what's called the Any-Alley database. That means when you call 911, it grabs some of that data, it grabs that address and that phone number, and shoots it to Charlotte and Miami, these 2 databases. And it says, hey, I know where that is, and it sends that call to the 911 center here in Alachua County. So there's a lot of coordination that must be done with Windstream, Entrado, AT&T to get that done. And then we also, in our office, we notify the United States Postal Service. You have to work with them. We notify FedEx, UPS, School Board Transportation, Florida Highway Patrol, Latch County Sheriff's Office, the people downstairs, High Springs here, the fire departments, Rescue 20 up on US 441. Just a lot of notification because our focus is on not having a mistake being made and we can't find the caller to 911. So, though that's only 118 addresses, it's not that much considering we just did about 1,000, which has been a lot of work for about 5 people, just about steady for 4 or 5 weeks working on that. So the 119 or the 118, not that difficult, but it just takes a little bit of time. It's nothing for you to be concerned with, but that's the stuff we do.
So if we do this, we would notify you that we've done this, and then you would go through and do that process.
We do all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. We make all the notifications. We work with Windstream. We work with Entrado, Postal Service. Now, the one, the one that we just did, or we're still working on, I actually contacted, there's a company called Telex. They actually do a lot of GIS, digital mapping. They do do a lot of that on the ground. They sell that data to companies like TomTom and Garmin. So I actually wrote those companies letters and said, hey, we just readdressed High Springs, blah, blah, blah. Can you put some focus on getting your GPS data updated? And also contacted Google as well.
At this point, I don't know where you are on your part as far as the readdressing. At what point do you think you'll be done with what you're doing now? And then, I guess I'm asking is, what would be a good point in time, do you think, for us to say to you, okay, here's the name for this new street, for this street?
My office is done.
Okay.
We have mailed out all the letters telling everybody of their new address. Done everything with Windstream, done everything with Intrado. What is being done right now is sign blaze being put up by David Benton.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the 27 ones are up, or 90% of them, if I'm not mistaken, are up already.
And do we have a cost of, if we were to do this, what the number of
Yes, ma'am.
signs are?
I looked it up today. It'll be about $1,600.
Oh, total?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, but that's not counting the big signs right here at the red lights.
Right.
So I'm not sure how much those are. I didn't have time to look them up. And then it'll take us probably 2 days to pull my street guys off and let them work nonstop on it like I am with these.
Okay.
So, how many signs are that you'd be have to replace?
I figured about 46, minus the 2 right here at the red light. I think that's about it.
And are we talking about, I'm assuming we're talking about from where we split off at 441 down to, I guess, the river?
No,
Down to River
not
Glen.
that far down.
Down to where?
They stop at River Glen, I believe.
Oh,
Riverland.
River Glen. Okay.
If I just want you to be aware that, while we were doing this, we received a lot, about 20-something angry phone calls. And my staff usually answers those, but they're always told, don't get into an argument with anybody, blah, blah, blah. When it gets to a certain point, let me have them. And 9% of the time, more than that, I can work it out. But most of these people, very unhappy, especially businesses, because letterhead, business cards, menus. Somebody had just put up a new sign, that they paid for. And, I couldn't do anything about any of those things. I just did my best to explain what, why it was being done. But then the other thing is, when you change your address, the correct address has to be on your driver's license. Well, if you have that letter from our office, you only have to pay the tax that the county is not allowed to waive that. It's like $6.50 or something. So if you go down, so these people have already gone down and changed their driver's license, maybe, or they're doing it now. Now they're going to go do it again. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Let's in hand here first. Come to him.
Ross Ambrose, here in High Springs. I think you just answered the question I've been wondering as you started. What exactly part of US 27 are we talking about? Because it goes through town and it turns and goes to Newberry, and it's always been first between Bev's and downtown. So if that part was being called US 27, that wouldn't make any sense as it changes as you go through the intersection. So if what was first going to be from Bev's to the First Avenue, if from downtown out to 257th, you said it was going to be 27th Avenue.
I think well, the whole, from the split from 441 out, past Maine and out is, in my understanding right now, is US 27.
Which doesn't make sense because it's not US 27 on anything from downtown to the split. So it would make sense for the city commission to say, let's call it a real name, because US 27 is a US route that's been there historically. And if you start adding a piece just because that's a convenient name, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Especially if people who are following US 27 as they drive through rural North Florida. US 27 is supposed to turn at the corner, not continue on. It would make sense that something be done to eliminate what probably would turn into a problem with people in direction ending up on US 441.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sharon Cantor, and I'm the business owner of Kudiku Creations, and it's on Northeast First Avenue, which is not on US 27. So when I got my new address, it said I was on West US 27. So maybe I can make sense of that, but I think someone coming into town cannot. So I have the same question that Ross has. What do we do with that little strip that goes from the light here at Main Street to where the thing merges? Because that affects me, and I just want to know what my real address is going to be, or if I'll have a name or whatever. So that's why I'm here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm John Fuller. I'm one of the businesses here on Northwest First Avenue, and the new ones. And I guess my question is, you said something about that you can't have two, but we're being changed because of the First Avenue.
No, sir, not because that was a duplicate, because the First Avenue doesn't, I think the county, every municipality in the county except for High Springs follows the county grid system, which begins at University of Maine and goes out from there. So you go west from University of Maine, and when you get to High Springs, the numbers should be a lot larger than a one.
Okay. So, I can see larger than First Avenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's my question would be then, why didn't we check with the city before we went out and sent all of those letters that changed it? Because I'm one of those that had a nightmare trying to get stuff shipped. Yes, well, I've got a letter from your office that said that is the new address effective immediately when you received that letter. And I'm calling UPS and chewing their backside. They're saying it doesn't exist and won't ship.
And I can explain that because I did get a phone call from someone about that very thing. I told that person, I'm going to check on it right now. And I immediately got off the phone and did. UPS we went down there twice with digital maps, hard maps, digital list, hard copy list, and could not get a hold of a supervisor. My staff came back to me and said it was a shambles down there. FedEx is right beside them. FedEx was perfect. We got a hold of the supervisor, took all the stuff, had a conversation with us. We had no complaints about FedEx, but UPS, we made a giant
I
effort.
can tell you when that complaint was, December 28th.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to fix it, deliver that package on the 29th, which was supposed to be on the 24th. And it still didn't show up 8 days later, because I had to call them again, and they had to call in their office.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like with any army, if it works, let's change it, is what it almost seems like.
Yeah, please understand, I didn't initiate this action. My
Oh,
office
I-
didn't initiate this.
nobody-
I'm the guy behind the curtain.
Yeah, but, from a business standpoint, we're the ones paying the penalty.
Yeah. And I get
So,
that.
and I guess at this point, why are we looking at changing a name again from what they've already gotten established and started to work on? Because you're talking about, if you've done 1,000, we're 108, that's 11.8% of the total that's been done. Right here in High Springs, is accounting for a good portion of that.
If I may. other than to say that there was a miscommunication when this was going to go on about a year or so ago, or maybe longer, I guess. And at that time, we were told that you could come up with and have different names for different streets, and then it died for certain reasons, and then things got renegotiated, and dispatch was then handed over. And when dispatch was handed over, part of the deal was that the core city would then fall in with the 911 numbering system. And at that time, we thought that this issue of naming was going to go forward. There was some miscommunication. It didn't happen. And then when we contacted Mr. Godwin about this, the fact that they had already changed and had already implemented all the changes on and naming it US 27, the compromise that they came up with was, look, you can, as a city, can rename a street. And the concern was that because of Northwest having a lot of our businesses being a business street, and for people to be able to associate it with High Springs, that it should be possibly renamed. It's not something that we, unfortunately, that as a new business coming in, those kind of things that happened to you. We tried to let businesses know that there was a possibility that we were going to talk about this changing
I never
again.
got that possibility. The only thing I've received is a letter stating that it was immediate.
Yeah.
This is your new address, and the notification of this meeting I got in the mail.
Right.
It's the only two things that I've ever received.
And I think in that, one of the things that of course, because you're a new business, you jumped right into it.
Well, yeah, you're talking about printing, you're talking about UPS and changing all vendors that I purchase from, giving them the new address. There's just, and it goes on and on. I have a website, so I had to get IT people in there to change up things.
And so it's weighing it, because we told a lot of the businesses, look, and in the letter, I think it said that you have, everybody that was notified, that you have a year to change. We wanted them to have, the businesses and the residents, to have time to use up whatever they had stationery and that type of thing. So they have a year to actually continue to use the old address, if you will. Their mail will still be delivered to that old address.
Okay, so basically the person that owns my building would have been the one notified of that. Because everything would have went to them at that address.
Right.
Okay. Then I understand where that's going. They just didn't notify me when I leased the building that this was upcoming. So before I went through and made a lot of expenses. But okay, that was my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for opening your business. I was there.
Before we come, is there in the county, is there another US 27? Anywhere in the county? This going to be the only part of
27 goes from here across the river, going right here, turn right, go to Newberry. That's 27. Makes
Right.
L in the town.
Okay, so that will be only.
The only portion that's addressed is 27 is this portion out there.
So-
That's right through here.
There's nowhere else in the county. That's what I'm trying to get.
My name is Johnny Shepherd. I live on 1220 Northwest First Avenue. And I want y'all to know, a long time ago, it used to be US 27. That was my address. It was on my license. And then they came and changed it to 1220 Northwest First Avenue. So that used to be 27 all the time until it got changed to Northwest First Avenue. Now my question is, if you change this, who gonna pay for this to get your license again? You got to think about that. Right now, you're putting that on people. Who gonna pay for that? Y'all gonna send another letter out to the drivers and tell them to give you $6.95? You have to pay the $32. You talking about poor people who got to go and do that and change their license and stuff. So you have to take that into consideration too. Thank you.
Paul Regensdorf. I was a big supporter of going to the dispatch center because it's going to save the city hopefully some money, if not a lot of money. But I think the city's starting to realize that it's costing a lot of people in town, such as this gentleman and us, a substantial amount of money to redo everything. And if we're going to redo it twice, let's do it quickly so that we don't have to change everything to West 27 and then change it again to Round Table Road or something. But I'd like to talk about a couple of other things real quickly. I was in favor of the switch to the dispatch, but I was desperately against changing the street numbers. And I truly believe that the county shoehorned us into this inappropriately, because I think their system can tell exactly where the phone calls come from. But we have what we have now. My address has become, rather than 420 Northwest First Avenue, a small town address. We run a business that caters to people who want to come to a small town. And our address is now something like 240 87 or 24 or something, west whatever. It sounds like we're in the middle of frickin' nowhere. It's really a horrible, it has caused horrible damage, I think, to the concept of our city as a small town, because now we're just a bunch of big numbers that nobody knows where they are. A couple of things. Number one, in the Gainesville Sun this morning, there was a correlation map of city streets under the old system and under the new system. I would strongly urge the city to publish that and keep that and circulate that so people have it available to them. It's extremely helpful. I have no idea where Northwest 244th Lane is. I have no idea. I don't know if it's near me or far from me or whatever. And I have no idea how to tell people. I can't tell people how to come to the Grady House anymore because I don't know the names of the numbers of the streets anymore. It's nice that the Postal Service is going to deliver for a year, but what about FedEx and UPS? I don't know. What about GPS systems? We've had people already say, we couldn't find your place because there's no street signs that match up with what our GPS system was telling us. How do we change those GPS systems? How do we tell people to do that? The city has saved some money and has transferred a tremendous amount, much of it unanticipated, to the poor saps that live along what used to be called Northwest First Avenue. This has done damage to our city as a small town. And part of the reason we came here is because it had that small town flavor. An address of 24017 Northwest 194th Lane does not communicate that. We got to tell people, no, we're not out in the boonies. We're 4 blocks from downtown of a small town. I think you guys need to think through some of that. And I don't know if the city can defray some of these expenses, but there's a lot of expense that people are going to have to go to, and I don't think we anticipated all of it. And the GPS systems is just one thing. Now, if you do get into renaming city streets, please consider renaming more than just Northwest First Avenue, because again, since we're stuck with these humongously numbered streets, the more streets that we have names that give a flavor, Elm Street, I don't care what you come up with, gives a flavor of a small town. Northwest 184th Terrace, I don't know where that is. It does not give any flavor of a small town. I did spend some time today looking up railroad names, and for example, there's a really good one about what a refrigerated car is called on railroad trains. I don't know if you're interested in naming First Avenue Reefer Street or not, but you might want to consider that. A detective for the railroad used to be called a cinder dick. I mean, here's another possibility. I'm just trying to throw some out. I'm not sure there's that many good railroad names, but I suggest we look quickly at naming it something, get rid of the problem about Northeast, Northwest First Avenue, because that is a problem. They're not even on 27. And consider naming other streets. Keep the flavor of this town. I am really distressed with the unintended consequences of this change, which I personally believe were completely unnecessary as far as the computerized dispatch system. But we have it, so we've got to do the best we have with it.
Anyone else?
I think we have, I don't know if Jenny can put it up on the screen just so that the people that are here can see it. There is a list of different names that has been put together, and doesn't mean that that is all, but as you can see, there's Locomotive, I mean, it'd be Flat Car Avenue, Locomotive Avenue, Brakeman Avenue. No?
Your TV's not on. That's probably a pretty good reason.
Keep Ross trying to handle the remote over there.
Is it on?
Lowe's done that.
Yeah, I didn't see that from you. That's the first I'm hearing of those, so. So why are they doing that?
Keith?
I got here late, I'm sorry about that, but I got too many eyes in the fire right now. And I'm close to 60 now, so I'm not as fast as I used to be. Just off my train of thought.
Whoa, you just said you're close to 60.
So you know, y'all, the process you take to rename this street here, that's been done. Everybody need it, have it.
Yes, sir, everywhere.
Okay.
My office is done. We're just fixing little errors here and there.
Okay. Even with the question about the GPS with Google now.
I wrote Google a letter.
Yeah. With my street, I used to be Palm Avenue, but I'm 174th Avenue. I can be coming from wherever. If I put my street name there, guess what still show up? 174 and Palm Avenue.
Yeah.
So it GPS, I mean, the Google system is, and that's been 10 years ago?
Yeah. The same thing for mine too.
Yeah. I live up in Kensington Place subdivision, and my address was 3310 Northeast Kensington Place. I think it was in 2003 or something that this city, that was all readdressed and this core area remained. My address was changed to 20274 Northwest 175th Avenue. I could not get that in a GPS for probably 4 or 5 years after that. It wouldn't show up. I had to keep using my old address. But like, I don't know what anybody did. I wasn't in that office then, but I'm telling you what I did now. Like I say, I wrote Telex, I wrote TomTom, Garmin, and Google, all letters, asking them to put some focus on, updating their GIS data, because it was about 1,000 addresses that were changed, and that affects a lot of delivery services.
And going back to the question, I think Ross, I'm trying to get a picture. So where did 27 start? It start out the Bills?
It starts right here at the corner. It comes from Newberry.
It doesn't go past the intersection.
Yeah.
So that piece between, it's gonna still stay Northeast First Avenue.
No, it's not going to stay that.
It's gonna be 27, which is not now, but it's gonna be changed to 27.
But that makes no sense.
Well, it's never gonna be US Highway 27 because it turns south at the intersection.
But it's been named under the new street system.
No, I understand. It's been named something that it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, the gentlemen are correct.
And the lady.
It's being called West US Highway 27 now.
So when you bear off past Jim Douglas,
Yes.
and it's gonna start from there and go all the way out to
Well, that's where it goes.
River Glen, they say.
If you think you're going under 27, then when you get to the light at Main, you have to turn left if you're coming off of there.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
if
if you're a
actually,
semi,
where you
that's a
really
real
see the
problem.
difference is if you're traveling north, let's say from the Brady House, and you get to that intersection, it tells you have to turn, I'm sorry. If you're traveling, let's say, from the Grady House on 27, when you get to the light here at where the Great Outdoors is, you have to turn right to go to 27 South. So what is the rest of that strip that takes you out to 441? It's a no man's road, really, because it's no longer 27. You turn right up here at the light to get to 27. So you're calling something West 27 that doesn't exist. So I think that will cause a lot of problems on GPS on everything because it doesn't exist.
It's not, yeah, you're right, it's not a US route.
Ross Ambrosian. My business address is on West US 27. And it has not been renamed. It was West US 27. And that was done when the original, or when they redid the outer line areas, what, 8, 9 years ago?
Mhm.
Okay, that information is still not in Google.
Mhm.
And UPS is the worst as far as delivering, but depending on how you search that in as an address and different searching things, it will default to downtown Alachua, or somewhere in here. So that actually then, and that is West US 27. That is the 911 address. So if you start calling a whole block West US 27, that doesn't really relate to a US route that's been around before the interstate system, and you want Google and the other companies to figure that out, what we were trying to do, I think you're nuts. I mean, realistically. And I also, yes, I remember the meetings where the county promised there would be community and citizen input before any decisions were made. So the county really should be willing to take some heat if you as commissioners are addressing a problem that's already come to light, and you do it sooner than later. And it would be very inconvenient, but let's take our medicine at one time if we're going to go forward with a decision that's been made. Because it was talked about, real critical streets, and the county agreeing to it, and having community input on what those names would be. And that didn't happen. So whether the idea that High Springs is a old railroad town is nice, and maybe 20 years from now, people will see that as having been a brilliant move, but there's also an opportunity for other names. And one of them I'm going to throw out there that I think should be added to the list is the state of Florida, with legislature approval, saw fit within 60 days to rename a state park after our local resident, Wes Skiles. And I think that the city's talked for years about finding a way to honor him. And, talk about a North Florida boy who did well, and was known around the world and is tied to our springs. Maybe looking at a place to have Skiles Avenue would be a good idea.
Yeah, I can't let the county, though, take the full heat because our fire department and the police department were involved. And so they know quite a bit.
It isn't a community meeting, and
I understand.
was said publicly that the community would have.
Right.
I'm just saying, we did have some involvement.
So when you come off of 441, there's a sign say technically 27. So you're saying that little piece is not 27, but the state, I guess because this road is 27, that's how they detour you off to 27. When you're coming on 441, say, do you this way to 27. And that little piece maybe not 27, but the state tell you to take that, but that's because you got to get
to it,
27, yeah. I never thought that.
No one else here either.
Keith. So then, okay, that's gonna be 441 where Jim Douglas is.
Yes, sir.
No, it isn't. That's Santa Fe.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's also 441.
But they're addressing the bank, and Jim Douglas is considered as Santa Fe Boulevard. Now, where my shop used to be, that was considered as 441. That space, I'm sure, that space between somewhere in where the pipe company is, up to Jim Douglas, on back is 441. And after the pipe plant, I think it's then it comes Santa Fe Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you're talking about
With Jim
the
Douglas.
the 441 stretch there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look at that before I came here. I don't know if it's Santa Fe Boulevard, Martin Luther King Boulevard, or 441. I don't.
I think
It's got two names on
They
it.
got two names. I know I think that one piece, if I'm not mistaken, Capital City Bank, on back up until wherever Jim Douglas is, that's considered as Santa Fe Boulevard. And then if you go past 222, that used to be US 441.
Yeah, I do know that the 911 office, the county 911 office that I'm in, has nothing to do with Oh, y'all,
Okay, so
with that
we're not dealing with
441
that part.
stretch. No, sir.
Okay, so we're dealing with that part from, once we come on the 27th.
Okay,
First.
put it first,
Call it here now.
on the split there. This piece right here.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyone else? Any other questions?
no question. I was just gonna say that, this is a workshop and obviously no decisions will be made. It was really to get a feel, I think, from the citizens, and from the commission as to, what we're looking at if we were going to change this. So it would have to go on a future commission, meeting agenda, to look at if we were gonna do, to discuss for purposes of changing it. So, there's no decision here to be made other than to take into what people have said about it and what find out what that process is.
It sounds like you're about to wrap up. Let me say that I think there's been some great input here from everyone, and that our office will do whatever it is you want done. It's not my decision.
Right.
It is your decision. I just do the work for you. I would just ask if you're going to use names, I would work off that list. 'Cause what you don't want to have, when this town went through the whole readdressing discussion, that's the outlying area, I came here because I worked in the 911 center, and I brought a recording of a lady in this town who called 911 because her husband was in cardiac arrest. And you could hear her, you could almost see her running around the living room or wherever she was in the house with a cordless phone in her hand, screaming and yelling. And we sent the ambulance to Gainesville. So we always focus on, taking out any of those possibilities for error, because humans are involved in that whole process. So avoid duplication, avoid difficult pronunciations or spellings, and stick with something that's we know it's here in High Springs.
Keith, let me ask you a question on the deal where it branches off right there, 441, it branches off. Could you have one road, could you have it the same name, go from there all the way out to River Glen and have it east and west?
Well, you don't want east and west,
We don't have it
because
east
this
or
is in the
west.
northwest quadrant of
Okay.
the county, so you want it.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting the city confused with the county.
Yeah.
So
Anything
you would
that's in the county, other than, we don't mess with US 441, we can put a name or number on it.
Well, it sounds like, where you branch off at 441, if nothing else is done, that area between there and Maine has to be done. To me, that seems like if we do nothing else.
Yeah, I would do the whole stretch.
Right.
It doesn't it's not a good practice. I'm coming off 441 at Bev's, I come to the light here, and it's called West Skiles
so it'd be the
Boulevard,
same
and
all the
then
way-
I continue straight, and now it's called something else.
So you could, okay, I got you. I'm
Bad
getting the county
practice.
messed up with the city, and I apologize. So you could do the name, but you could go from 441 where it branches off, take a name, and take that all the way out to the river. Glen.
Yeah.
Well, we need to do that, and we need to do it like pronto.
Yeah, I would think we can't do it on this next commission meeting, which is this week, but we could put it on the agenda for the following, the last one in this month.
Yeah, I live in this town too. I moved here after living all over the planet. Grew up in Orlando, but I moved here because it was a little town. I looked all over the place, didn't want to go back to Orlando, and I like this little town. I kind of like the whole theme with the railroad names. I wish more of those were sprinkled around here. But it was not my office that was, or the county that was the conduit for the community discussion. That was the city of High Springs had those discussions and all that. I wasn't involved in that. So.
Denver's at 24042 West US High, I think that's what it is. But, so in the example that you just gave of the woman who was, you send the ambulance to Gainesville, does the 911 operators not ask what city? I mean, wouldn't that be an easy question? What city are you calling from? When it's not just Gainesville or Micanopy or Alachua or...
That question is asked now, but you can go across that river right there. U.S. Postal Service doesn't follow community boundaries. U.S. Postal Service does it based on delivery. What post office? So you can go across that river. High Springs delivers mail across that river. People that live over there, they have an address that says High Springs, and they will tell you High Springs when they're in another county. So, but they do ask High Springs now. I mean, they do ask what city now.
Okay, that makes sense, right? With all the different cities in Alachua, would make sense to have the 911 operator ask, what city are you calling
They do
from?
ask that.
Okay.
It adds another 5 or 6 seconds to the call, because now we're waiting for a response.
If they ask me what my address is when I call 911 tonight, I will have no frickin' clue. It'll take a lot more than 5 seconds to come up with my address.
So would the numbers change, or the numbers gonna stay the same?
The numbers will stay the same. The house numbers will stay the
So
same.
if we change it, we still gonna have, if we don't change that now, that's the best, and we change one of these, and we still gonna have the same problem. People waiting in UPS or whatever, to do it. Same thing.
Our office updates the map that the 911 operators see on the phone system. We've already done that, because you've put up all the sign blades in the northwest quadrant. We just pushed out the map to the 911 center Monday with the new streets on that map. The rest of the city, the other 3 quadrants, still have the old on there because the sign blades are not put up yet. So as he puts the sign blades up, we change the map. The property appraiser's office, our data is actually on the property appraiser's website, not for the public. It's on a server. The sheriff's office and this police department, High Springs Police Department, also have a map in their vehicles. That map that data is pulled off that server. They actually have it in their vehicles too. So the responders have the map in their vehicles. We have a new map at the phone system. So for public safety, we try and cover all those bases as things change. I wish I could call up Google and Garmin and TomTom and tell them to change it, but my best effort was to write them a letter, tell them how important it is to change it. And if I don't see something happen, I'll write them a letter again.
Okay, anyone else? All right, if there's nothing else.
I would just put that at not this one Thursday, but the next one.
Right.
Just go on as an agenda thing to rename it, so that way you can go back and so forth. Okay.
Nothing else?
Thank you.
We'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you for coming.